All right, no
Show.
Friday night intro. Actually, no Sunday night intro. So, just for tonight, we'll pretend it's Monday night. Oh man, the internet right now. Before we officially start, come on, the internet right now. You know what's going on, everybody.
It's Friday night. That means it's time for The Don Tony Show.
You waited all week, and now it's finally here. Get Don Tony's perspective on current affairs in the world of pro wrestling and beyond.
And now, your host, the man, the legend, Don Tony. Don Tony. Don Tony. Don Tony.
No fear, everyone. No fear. No fear. We have WWE Fastlane. Don't worry about it. This is the road to WrestleMania. This is the bump in the road. No one think that the MIZ is defending the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. Not going to happen. You know, on Twitter earlier tonight, when I was hyping up this recap, I said to everybody, hey, tune in to tonight's recap. We'll discuss Roman Reigns versus Edge set for WrestleMania. Will we see Drew McIntyre versus Lashley at Fastlane? This is not what I was thinking. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Miz is your WWE champion. Now you know why MVP was talking to the Miz earlier. Now, if you think about the storyline, Morrison cost Lashley the championship tonight. Riddle's now your new United States champion. So if anything, MVP would be pissed off at the Miz. Look what your boy did. Your boy made us. So there's obviously some type of an arrangement there where maybe Miz promises the first title shot to Lashley. The problem is you got Adam Pearce in management, and that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the case. No fear, everyone. No fear. Now, look, me, I've said it many, many times before. I like The Miz. I'm a fan of The Miz. Some of the stuff that they do on TV, WWE, I'm not that much of a fan of, but I like The Miz. The Miz gets under your skin. He trolls, and how he trolls is what you see tonight. This is entertainment, everyone. You know, yes, Drew McIntyre lost the championship, but there ain't no way Drew McIntyre is going into WrestleMania, going through the entire COVID era and not being able to defend that championship once in front of live fans unless he regains it at WrestleMania. By the way, special shout out to everybody. Oh, who's that? So we got somebody already that we have to address. Who's that annoying people out there? Do we have to get rid of who's that? Who's that? So anyway, before I go any further, big shout out to everybody who's tuning in live. Big shout out to everyone who's tuning in on Periscope, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch. What did you all think of the pay-per-view? Thumbs up? Thumbs down? Thumbs up, thumbs down? What do you think? I mean, honestly, even if Drew would have retained and we went off the air with that, no matter what would have ended up, even if Drew would have beaten The Miz on his cash-in, I thought this pay-per-view was kind of A lot of people were left off of this show. You know, they teased Asuka, and I'll tell you something, man. We're starting this now. It's 9:41 p.m. 9:41. It started at 7. Yes, there was a pre-show match. We'll get into the match results momentarily. But this pay-per-view went off the air in 2.5 hours. This isn't 1997. There's no reason, in my opinion, why a WWE pay-per-view where they were averaging almost 4 hours at times, 3.5 hours, start at 7, ends at 10:30, almost 11 o'clock. Somebody have to get up early tomorrow? It ended at 9:30 p.m. You mean to tell me you couldn't have Asuka come out there with an open challenge? You mean to tell me with some of the other people on the roster, you couldn't have another match mixed in? Okay, maybe that's why. Da Vinci, it's 3:40 in the morning where he is right now. So I don't know if they had your time zone in mind. But earlier in the pre-show, they were talking about who was going to be the opponent for Asuka because of Lacey Evans. And can we please stop it? Please stop it. I understand this is entertainment. I understand that it's storylines. And I understand that the commentators, especially in the pre-show, they have to take certain sides, even if they don't want to take that particular side, simply to spike debate, conversation. Trust me, and I say this with love, Sam Roberts is not that stupid. Sam Roberts, unfortunately, sometimes has to take the sides in an opinion that, no one else really wants to take. And yes, probably JBL and Booker T have a little bit of seniority over everyone else. But to turn around and try to say, is it possible that Ric Flair is the father? Oh, who could the father be? I mean, I understand, we're not supposed to know Lacey Evans's real life, personal relationship situation. But guess what? You took her real life, personal situation and put it on TV. So for these commentators, it's WWE's fault. It's not the commentators' fault. But for WWE to actually have them have these brain dead discussions, did they get hold of what Matt Riddle's stash? Oh man. And Michael, I agree, no need to waste Asuka, but you mean to tell me you wouldn't have minded, you would have had a problem with seeing Asuka give some type of an ass kicking tonight? Make an open challenge, let Rhea Ripley answer it, even if it ends up with just a pull apart or some type of schmaz, just to get a little bit of a buzz. I don't know, man. Honestly, and it sucks because this is the Elimination Chamber. The Elimination Chamber, when we look back on history, you always remember the chamber matches for the most part. Sometimes you get a match here and there that you remember as well, but for the most part, you only remember the chamber. I don't know. I feel very, I don't want to say ripped off. I mean, we get our money's worth, but I feel that we were shortchanged tonight. I felt like this felt more of a throwaway pay-per-view than anything else. And honestly, Elimination Chamber should never, ever be looked at as a throwaway pay-per-view. And that's kind of how I felt tonight. I don't know how you all felt tonight, but man, I'm polling the chat right now. Dayhawk says he enjoyed the SmackDown Chamber the most. Yeah, look, we'll get into match-by-match results after, but I'll say this. My predictions tonight, some of it, we got spot on. We talked about Reginald. Reginald was going to be the distraction that caused Sasha and Bianca Belair to not win the match tonight. Happened exactly how we envisioned it, and it kind of sucked. Most of us did not think that Riddle was going to be winning tonight. We'll talk about Keith Lee's situation in a moment, but I tell you, you look at the matches tonight. If you're going to have Daniel Bryan lose quicker than taking a piss, I understand the storyline. We talked about it Friday. Doug MacKay, as much as he loves Drew, one thing about the Miz, he's loyal. I think Drew is loyal too. If you're saying that Drew went on to work elsewhere, I don't think that was his choosing the first time around. I think WWE released him. Miz is good at what he does. He's not meant to have 5-star matches. He's not meant to have matches. Look, the guy is consistent, and that's why the guy is not injury prone. The guy has safe matches. It's been talked about. He's had back and forths with Daniel Bryan in the past. We've had discussions and chats about it. But the Miz, in his role, pardon the pun, the Miz is awesome. The Miz is awesome for the role that he does. Him having the briefcase again was stupid. We already talked about that. He was in the TLC match. He worked the entire match to try to play this dumb storyline that he didn't cash the briefcase. Well, then how was he involved in the match? And if you remember the storyline, if The Miz never cashed in the briefcase, and that's why he got it back in storyline, AJ Styles should have demanded a rematch because The Miz shouldn't have been in that match in the first place. Yeah, I understand this is entertainment, and I know we are a little bit stickler. We're sticklers to detail, but don't insult our intelligence like we're 5 years old. I mean, this is WWE. I mean, I know there's a lot of you out there that are huge fans of AEW right now, and I don't blame you. But, you know, WWE, you look at most wrestlers that show up in that company, this is what I always envisioned being. This is the top of the top. This is a creme de la creme. How many times you heard me say that over the years? And to have that, you know, careless writing, it only leads to one thing. These people are making billions. This company is making billions. Obviously not just based on what you see on TV. And trust me, The Miz is not going to cause them to make millions either. But what this shows is when you see a company this successful and you see the competition is really not a threat right now, they just don't care. They don't care about the detail like they used to. I mean, back when the Attitude Era, and I don't live in the past, obviously, but, you know, these are professional people working for this company. You know, forget about this, they're not getting raises, they're not getting this again. They're getting paid very, very well. You don't have the upper people in creative making only $10,000 a year. They're getting paid well. Okay, they didn't get any extra. When is it an obligation? When is it a requirement that somebody's pay gets a raise or an increase every year? Oh, well, they made record profits. Well, that's probably why they made record profits. You know, it's funny how people online, especially those that are unemployed, seem to know the most about how business works and payroll and everything else. Fastlane is March 21st, Sam. That is 4 weeks from today. A lot is going to happen within 4 weeks. Hell, I was thinking about it tonight. I was thinking about the idea of Lashley, Drew, Brock at WrestleMania. No, we don't know what's going to happen with Brock, but as we go through the days and more people are getting vaccinated and travel restrictions are eased, the possibility of Brock appearing at WrestleMania increases. The guy doesn't need to do 30-minute matches. So it's not that Brock needs like months and months of training to get back where he's at. The guy, trust me, is in shape. And I know a lot of you, what's up, Everything Pro Wrestling? Ted Turner, Rep, Big T, SoFly, Javier, Blue-Eyed, Neil Ray, Devin, Slipper, everybody tuned in live. Welcome. Hope you're having all a good night. You know, but getting back to what we were saying, you know, I know not a lot of you out there are big fans of Brock. And I think you're more upset at the way WWE used him than actually him himself. I think he boosts the WrestleMania card. Do you want Drew versus Miz in a rematch? Should we bomb it now? Do you want Miz versus Lashley versus Drew? Does that sound really appealing? Like, who, chat room, this is for everybody out there right now. Daniel San says they're going to give Drew his WrestleMania moment. Yeah, the guy, you know, it's very easy. You know, somebody actually, I was watching a podcast the other day. It is 1,000 times more difficult to be creative than to complain. And it's very, very easy to complain about everything online. And it's very easy to throw jabs at Drew McIntyre when, under the circumstances, we are still right smack in the middle of COVID. We're not out of the woods yet. We're on the right path, but we're not out of the woods yet. So I ask for everybody who's live right now, and I know the chat room is a little bit condensed tonight. You know, I made the print a little bit bigger. A lot of you requested that. But I ask you right now, type your responses, because everybody on the archive will be seeing your responses as well. If you had the opportunity right now to choose Drew McIntyre's opponent or opponents at WrestleMania for the championship, who would you choose? Who would you choose? Me? The more I think about it, I've been saying all along, I'd love to see Drew versus Brock. Role reversal. Brock was the champ last year. Drew was the challenger. Now Brock is the challenger and Drew is the champion. But I tell you, Lashley has been killing it for months and months and months. I would like to see Brock versus Drew versus Lashley. It gives that fantasy match that a lot of people always wanted in Lashley versus Brock. Lashley has said he always wanted to fight Brock. You get Drew in the mix as well. I think Lashley, Brock, and Drew would be my choice. Yeah, Mr. Mike says McIntyre versus Bad Bunny. Did you see that tonight? Slap. By the way, how come Bad Bunny didn't come out there to get involved? Bad Bunny is always in the MIZ's shit. Why didn't Bad Bunny come out tonight? I know. By the way, did you see Bad Bunny's appearance on Saturday Night Live? Yeah, I'll keep repeating what I've been saying on the shows. Miz and I, the Mish and I have been saying, we're fine with Bad Bunny being a 24/7 champion. They're getting so much advertising right now. That title has been a joke since it came out. So you have him, at least the guy is a lifelong WWE fan. I'm not into his music. Honestly, I never really heard of the guy before he started to do this stuff. But the more I learn about him, you know, his appreciation for wrestling in WWE is strong. And if you're going to have a celebrity appear, I mean, not for nothing. Maybe you don't like his music and maybe you don't like his look. Maybe there's something about him that kind of like demeans some people out there. Maybe their masculinity is challenged. I don't know the reasons why people get so angry at Bad Bunny holding a championship that everybody said was garbage from the beginning. If there's ever having a celebrity involved, this is probably what you want. Someone that gives a shit, that's enjoying it, that's working hard. Do you think he needs this? Guy's got more money than all of us combined times 1,000. You don't have to like it, but, you know, people seem to have this vendetta against this guy. But, you know, you see it. The match likely that's going to happen at Mania is going to be Damian Priest and Bad Bunny versus Miz and Morrison. That's where it seems like it's going. I know some of you out there think, and thank you everybody who posted your ideas of opponents for Drew. You know, I have the screen up so everybody is watching it as we're talking. We're having a conversation. But, you know, I know a lot of people out there are saying, no, Miz versus Bad Bunny seems... I would not do that. For the same reasons why when they announced Becky versus Ronda Rousey, I said from day one, and I had a lot of crap handed my way over it. I said, no, it should be Becky versus Ronda versus Charlotte. Because as good as Ronda Rousey was, and picking it up like that, you know, there's always that chance of, you know, freezing up. There's a chance of injury. There's a chance of just like literally melt. I mean, you know, just because you know how to do a certain moves or you're a multi-millionaire and you're a performer, you know, performing in the ring with the timing and everything else is a whole different animal. And Charlotte would be there to pick up if something happened with Ronda Rousey. And I personally think Damian Priest needs to be there. If Bad Bunny starts doing a couple of moves and something doesn't feel right or it's a little off or it's just not gelling or clicking, you know, you immediately get Priest involved, you get Morrison involved. So Miz and Morrison versus Priest, Damian Priest and Bad Bunny, I mean, that's got to be the match going into Mania. And look, as much as some of you may not be looking forward to that match, if that happens, realize something. Miz will definitely not be the WWE champion if that's the case. Imagine if they did Miz versus Bad Bunny for the WWE Championship. Oh my God. Could you imagine? I mean, think about the attention and revenue WWE. They would never do that. I just don't see that. I don't see that. Let me tell you, George Burns, I was around, as many of you, when David Arquette became the WCW champion. It was goofy. It was stupid. A lot of us thought it was dumb. I was doing a wrestling hotline at the time, but it didn't have the controversy that it generated years later. Believe me when I tell you. I know people will, sensationalize it because they do podcasts and they generate books and revenue and this and that. When it happened, I wish I would have recorded my hotlines a year or two earlier in real time to talk about that. Brandon Jones, welcome. Join the family. Much love, my friend. I think you'll enjoy it. Now you could emoji your ass off. Seriously. But, when David Arquette won that championship, they had Ready to Rumble that was out in the movies or just coming out in the movies. And WCW had so many goddamn title changes. Vince McMahon fighting Austin for the championship. You had Vince Russo ultimately doing stuff for it. I mean, you had executives fighting. So David Arquette winning, this was a guy that was an actor, loved wrestling, and I'm not making excuses for it. I did not like it. I thought it was stupid. But trust me when I tell you, maybe hardcore wrestling fans, purists, because you got to remember, you're talking late 90s, early 2000s. You go back 30 years, 20 years, you're talking 70s and the 80s. So wrestling fans at that time that were hardcore 70s and the 80s were in their 50s and 60s. And those 50s and 60s year olds were not prevalent on the net. You didn't have social media like it was now. You basically look at all the magazines at that time. You see all the magazines losing their shit, triggered over that. It was to promote a movie. He had the title for this amount of time. Again, I'm not justifying it, but the point is that, sometimes there is the entertainment crossover. So, I appreciate this comment about Bobby Lashley. So, but let's get into a couple of little super chats. Jamie and Pressley, he believes that WWE made the Miz champion because of the whole Peacock deal. No, I don't think so. I mean, Fastlane will be the first WWE pay-per-view on Peacock. But trust me when I tell you, as much as I like The Miz, you don't see them going into executive meetings and saying, hey, our new WWE champion, The Miz. Right now, I can only imagine how much the internet is going just batshit right now over this. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here laughing at it because you got to just take a step back. We're on the road to WrestleMania. Listen to the commentators and listen closely to how they word their lines sometimes. We picked up on it Friday, that Friday, everything about Edge Friday. Now, yes, it was made official tonight, his opponent for WrestleMania. But as we talked about on Friday night, which was only 48 hours ago, they went over and beyond to eliminate any chance of Finn Balor being a choice for Edge. It wasn't even mentioned. It wasn't even a possibility. They did everything they could to eliminate that. We're on the road to WrestleMania. There's going to be changes. So if you're telling me right now that The Miz will be the champion going into WrestleMania, no. Don't worry about it, seriously. Devin M. Miz will be a transitional champ. It won't last. I agree 100%. I agree. In fact, Lashley, I loved his beatdown to Drew today. It was excellent. But I just can't see Lashley being hired by the Miz, to do his dirty work so Miz could get the championship. Lashley wants the title. Maybe Lashley you're going to see this all come together on Raw tomorrow night. MVP, Miz is going to open up Raw. MVP will come out there. There'll be some type of deal that was made with Lashley. And you know what? Maybe because Miz is now champion, Miz doesn't go along with the program. And then Lashley wants Miz. And here's where you get Adam Pearce and Drew McIntyre. And remember, there's no automatic rematch clauses. You'll see that shit get thrown out the window, and everything will go against Miz's way. And who knows? Who knows? I know I'm reaching right now, but if you're going to have Bad Bunny and Damian Priest versus Miz and Morrison at WrestleMania, doesn't it make sense that Bad Bunny maybe ends up being the one to cost Miz his championship, and Miz just wants to tear his head off and insist on a match? That's where they could be going with this. Believe me, the amount of publicity that they're getting off of some of this, do not think that that's so far-fetched. By this time tomorrow night, when we do Breakfast Soup Raw, we probably will have a lot of these questions answered. Fastlane, as we mentioned earlier, is March 21st, 4 weeks away. Within a week or two, we're going to have matches lined up already. So Bobby Lashley has to be in the title picture. I mean, I agree, man. Seriously. Riddle, it was a fun match tonight. Riddle and John Morrison did not gel as much as I expected them to. It was a little bit messy. Riddle is now your United States champion. I like Riddle. There was one point I could not stand this man. And believe me when I tell you, I didn't start liking him because he's doing the Fast Times at Ridgemont High. What's his name? Spicoli? I didn't become a fan of, just you see how hard this guy works, and he's great in the ring. And you know what? That shit that happened where he was, had infidelity, he manned up and admitted his mistakes. And you kind of respect someone. Look, we don't condone that, but you kind of respect someone who mans up and says, look, I made some mistakes, man, and I want to try to be a better person. Champion or not, wrestler or not. You got to admire that a little bit. Papo Jr. says Bad Bunny did hint when he told Miz that he's not a champion. Well, you know what? For those that didn't see the segment, they were in the back, and Sonya Deville, go to my office, go to my office, go to my office. We heard that 20 times before the show tonight. Go to my office, Street Profits. Go to my office, go to my office. I like Sonya Deville in that role. Sonya Deville looks relaxed. Sonya Deville looks happy. Sonya Deville, it's good to see her back on TV. And this role that she's in right now, no problems with it whatsoever. During the pay-per-view tonight, they had a backstage segment where Sonya Deville was with Bad Bunny and giving him props for his performance. And I saw the performance. What was that woman's name? Rosalia? Is that her name? I thought, look, like I said, it's not my type of music. And let me make this clear, and I'm going to defend people out there that never heard of Bad Bunny before wrestling. There are a lot of international music stars. There are a lot of people in hip hop that I have never heard of before. There are people in probably the metal scene that a lot of you have never heard before that have millions and millions and millions, tens of millions of fans. There are certain genres of music that never ever cross our airways. So I understand totally why so many out there had no idea who Bad Bunny was. But you see the momentum that this guy has now, and you know what? WWE's capitalizing on it. They're not going overboard with it. 24/7 title, even though I know some people are even upset at that, but Sonya Deville was backstage with Bad Bunny, enter The Miz, and The Miz and Bad Bunny have a little bit back and forth. And, Bad Bad Bunny making fun of Miz that he didn't have a championship. Miz pushes Bad Bunny, and Bad Bunny slaps the bejesus, as people say, out of Miz's mouth. And before Miz could do anything, Damian Priest, bodyguard for Bad Bunny. Now, Bad Bunny wasn't playing the pussy. You know, I'm sorry for using that language, but you know, you've seen heels in the past, or even AJ Styles, and I'm not calling him a sissy or a pussy or anything like that, but AJ Styles, there's a reason why Amos is his bodyguard, technically. The idea is, remember Shawn Michaels with Diesel, that, you know, when this smaller guy is behind the bodyguard, sometimes you would troll your opponent. You'd be like this in the back. You know, like, Bad Bunny didn't do any of that. And don't get me wrong, no, I don't like, you know what, Elton John was never my type of music. You know, I mean, I hear it more in doctor's offices than I ever did in my personal listening back then. Fernando says UFC is the best. UFC, look, I don't compare wrestling with Ultimate Fighting. I mean, yes, they both display contact, and UFC is not predetermined. But I understand, you know, for people out there that enjoy pro wrestling, you know, that sense of reality is what attracts people towards UFC. I just can never get into it. And trust me, there are some people in wrestling that could legit kick the shit out of people in real life. They just don't need to do that. But so, you know, Miz gets slapped by Bad Bunny, and we'll see where it progresses from here. But that story is not over with, obviously. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if Miz on Raw immediately tries taking a shot at Bad Bunny, like, oh, you got that 24/7 title? Look what I got. Almost guarantee you he does that on Raw. Brandon Jones, he just wished that WWE could have waited until Mania, had the Miz come out at Mania, pin Drew. Oh, no. Oh, no. Get it out of the way now. Honestly, this is not 10 years ago. 10 years ago with Miz, it was different. Now, you know, especially that you're coming out of COVID, you know, there's got to be a bigger picture here. And I just personally, in my opinion, feel there is no way you want Miz going into WrestleMania, first time, Razor Blade. Welcome to the family, man. Oh, this week's going to be a good week, too. Stay tuned to the memberships. If anybody wants to check it out, you know, just see that perks button, perks. And by the way, if you're enjoying the show, as I always ask, you know, smash that like button, and if you haven't done so yet, subscribe. This way you're notified. You know, the next step, if you noticed a little bit of production upgrades here, the next step on this channel is to do clips. People have been asking for ages, please. What about doing these 5-minute little clips, 7-minute little clips, discussions, topics, this and that? You want to talk about Bad Bunny, just do it all on its own. You want to talk about this? That's the next step. So next week or so, we start doing that. So, but welcome to the family, Razor Blade. Razor Blade 00. Cool. Absolutely cool. But, so I personally think after 1 year, more than a year of COVID, we'll be about 16. Can I say something? Look, you know, I don't bring up politics on these shows, with the exception of Thursday, if my live audience, live friends, I don't like saying audience, our live members of the family want to tune in and ask. But for everyone out there, just to show you how ridiculous shit was with COVID a year ago. Get ready for this. Fernando's a troll? Where's Fernando? Fernando saying WWE is fake. Back in 1985, I get really angry if you use the fake word. Dr. D, David Schultz, slap in the ear. Yeah, we give him a little more leeway. You know, but do you know it was 1 year ago? Might have even been today. If it's not today, it's within a day or two. We're approaching the 1 year anniversary for the campaign. Oh, get ready for this. 1 year ago, 15 days to stop the spread. Think about that. 1 year ago, we were wondering what was going to happen with WrestleMania. Not just WrestleMania, all those promotions, the conventions, everybody that was planning wrestling events. What was going to happen? Are they going to? And we got that campaign 15 days to stop the spread. Look, I know anybody that's been with me for a long time knows that I was a big Trump supporter. Over the last couple of years, I really soured on a lot of his stuff, and I did not vote for him last year. But I'll say this, in hindsight, to me, that is a bigger blunder than when George Bush showed up in Iraq, or he had made that speech that we've won. What was that comment that he made at that time? Just think about that. Think about that. 1 year ago, 15 days to stop the spread. 15 months later, since COVID started. A year since that dumb remark. But look at that shit. What he said? I can't remember what he said. But just think about that. Now think about wrestling over the last 12 months. AEW's had its up and downs. Ring of Honor, and NWA, my condolences. My condolences to the family and friends of NWA. You know, may he or she, rest in peace, because NWA is pretty much too done. Fernando's a UFC fighter. Oh, that's cool, man. Seriously. But, let's keep it, pleasant conversation. There's a lot of fans here that when wrestling is on TV, from the time it starts to the time it ends, we have a suspension of disbelief. We want to believe what we're watching is somewhat has reality in it. Just like when you go to a movie to see a horror film. When you got that dumb broad that runs into the corner instead of out the front door, running for help. Instead, she just goes into a corner and she gets hacked up to death by the bad guy. During that movie, you kind of forget that it's a horror film. It's not real. It's a form of entertainment. So we're trying to give you, chance to hang out. So, but if he's lying, he's lying. We all lie. It's all good. I don't know him, so I just don't like blocking, banning people unless, it's really a hater. So, but yeah, I think we'll all say UFC is real. WWE is a form of entertainment. That's what it is. There's no disputing that. So anyway, you have Drew McIntyre for an entire year handling the reign of Raw. Roman Reigns came back during the year, and let's be honest, Roman Reigns' schedule has been far less than Drew McIntyre. A lot of, smoke and mirrors, a lot of promos, a lot of matches. He's had a few that have lasted long, but a lot of matches, it just seems like 2 or 3 opponents. You look at Roman Reigns' reign since he started, there's never been one time that we honestly thought that there was ever a chance Roman Reigns was losing that championship. He feuded with Jey Uso, and we were like, oh, yeah. But we liked it anyway because the feud and the match and the storytelling was at its finest. So we were fine with that. Then you go to Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns, there was never a doubt in almost everybody's eyes. No way Kevin Owens was losing was going to win that belt. Roman Reigns was not losing it. But because they worked so well together and the storyline was solid, you did not care. And what else do we got? You know what I did not like tonight? I did not like tonight that Roman Reigns gets speared once, and he's selling it like all his ribs are broken. Nothing against Edge. I've been praising the shit about Edge since he returned. That guy worked almost an hour at the Royal Rumble and then followed it less than 24 hours later having an awesome match with Randy Orton on Raw. So that guy removed any doubt in my mind that guy couldn't go. But you look at him physically, and you look at Roman Reigns and all of the abuse that he has taken, especially from Kevin Owens, and one spear, you might as well have had him spitting up blood today. I don't know. I thought that was a little bit lame. I mean, maybe I would have just done the segment quicker. Soon as Edge spears him, he whispers in his ear, "I'm your opponent at WrestleMania." Points to the sign, music hits. Roman Reigns, either exits the ring or Edge immediately leaves the ring, but they did it way too long. You know what that reminded me of? Remember what they did to Braun Strowman? And I still, to this day, think it's one of the dumbest moments I've ever seen in Braun Strowman's career, and it was something so minor. But you remember they had him do a segment with Roman Reigns on SmackDown, and Roman Reigns hit him with some type of a move, and Braun Strowman looked like, and I'm sorry for painting this picture, looked like a deer. Oh, we're going to get to that, Neil. He looked like a deer on the side of the road that just got hit by a car, that is just writhing in pain and won't stop. And you just picture like you hit a deer and you pull over on the side of the road and the deer is in agony and the deer is not going to make it. And the person you're with like, look, kill it, get out of its misery. And you're just looking at it and it's just like suffering and suffering and suffering. You feel bad and it's just suffering and suffering and suffering and suffering. And you just like, it won't fucking die. It's just that's what they did with Braun Strowman. He was in that ring for like 5 minutes suffering. They should have just took a hunting rifle. Character. Take him out of his misery. And by the way, I'm going to throw a little monkey wrench with tonight. Why? Hear me out. Wouldn't it? And if you disagree, write you disagree in the chat right now. You look at the last 7 days with WWE television. You think about the fact that Lashley lost his United States Championship tonight and Morrison was the reason. So if anybody should have been mad at MIZ and Morrison because it's Miz's best friend, MVP should have been irate to Miz. Now, yes, somehow maybe this is paid, they worked out an agreement, but hear me out. How stupid does Braun Strowman look on Monday in storyline threatening Adam Pearce? He doesn't show up on SmackDown to up the ante. I'm not joking, Adam. He doesn't even show up on his pay-per-view tonight. In hindsight, after what we saw on Raw last week with Braun Strowman, shouldn't Braun Strowman have been the one to come out there and beat the balls off of Drew McIntyre tonight? And you think about that storyline with Braun getting trolled by Miz and Morrison. Remember the van thing? Remember the production truck thing when Miz and Morrison, they're outside giggling? And remember, didn't Braun have the Grand National? One of my favorite cars in my lifetime, the Grand National. Now you think about it. Wouldn't it be an odder relationship that Strowman helped Miz win the championship tonight? Strowman making threats to Adam Pearce on Monday and then doesn't show up tonight? I, in hindsight, think as much as I want Lashley to be in the title hunt, I would have rather have seen Braun Strowman at the end of the night. I told you, Adam. And he takes it out on Drew. And to piss people off even more, he freaking helps the Miz cash in the briefcase. Isn't that? And remember, Adam Pearce gave the briefcase back to the Miz. Wouldn't it have been the ultimate fuck you to the WWE and Adam Pearce after Braun threatened him, put me in this? Adam doesn't do it. Braun shows up and not only gets involved, but costs Drew the WWE Championship and gives it to the guy that Adam Pearce gave the briefcase back to. I don't know. What do you think? What did Rep say? Is Rep just thinks I'm nuts, or what did he say over here? I don't like, all right, Rep says that I'm a hypocrite. I was a Trump supporter before, but as soon as everybody turned his back on Trump, no, Rep. We're not getting into politics tonight. But I debated with a lot of people, and I was still defending the guy. And there were little things that he was doing. I don't need to document. There's proof on all my shows. There was little things that were just building up. If you're mad that I no longer support him enough to vote for him, then it's your prerogative. But don't try to summarize it like that. So, anyway, but what do you think? In hindsight, even if Lashley would have still been in the title hunt, do you think Braun should have been the one to help Miz get that championship tonight? It would have made total sense with the storyline with Adam Pearce. Al says that's too good a great logic for WWE. I don't know. I'm just trying to think outside the box here, and I'm saying to myself, I know this is all entertainment and everything, but how ridiculous does Braun look? Making all these threats, and he don't show up and do anything. That hurts Braun's character. I mean, especially, I don't know what is it with pro wrestling and huge guys. But you look at even on AEW, we've talked about that before. You got Team Taz with Powerhouse Hobbs and Brian Cage more than anything else. Two monsters. And a little fake snow comes down and they run out of the ring like mice running away from cats. I don't know. I just feel that Braun should have been the one to cost Drew the championship tonight. It would have been like, why would he help Miz? Why? And then if you want Bobby Lashley to get involved, you could have had MVP and Lashley confront Miz on Raw and use Morrison as the reason. Your boy cost my man the championship, the United States Championship. So the way I look at things, you always won. It would have been enough of a reason for Lashley to want to go after Miz and Morrison. And let me tell you something. If Braun Strowman is not ready to return to the ring, they should have never did what they did last Monday. Should have never done it. Best to have kept him off television entirely. Because to me, Braun looks like a goof right now. I'm a huge Braun Strowman fan. This is the character and the storyline I'm talking about. Makes him look like a goof. By the way, in storyline, why didn't Alexa Bliss do anything today? Why didn't The Fiend? Why wasn't there any teaser? And talk about a weird elimination. How uneventful was that for Randy Orton to get eliminated the way he did? There was a couple of things tonight, man, that I look back on and I say to myself, especially out of everything tonight that pissed me off, probably the one that upsets me the most is Cesaro. This guy, so many people feel that he has been underappreciated in WWE for a very long time. And Cesaro was my pick. Even though we talked about Daniel Bryan for the longest, Cesaro was my pick in the end because you're not going to start building a storyline with Cesaro and Roman Reigns now when you're setting up for WrestleMania. So the only way you could get Cesaro and Roman Reigns have a match for the title is if he wins, by happenstance or wins some type of big competition, whether it's a battle royal, because that's what would happen back in the day, 80s, 90s, 2000s, when we would go to house shows. Battle royal. Whoever wins the battle royal gets the title shot later on against the champion. And somebody would win the battle royal you would not expect to win, because you would never advertise the champion versus this person leading into the night. But if you have a battle royal where you have 20 men and they all have the even opportunity and somebody wins unexpectedly, that person rightfully gets the title shot that night. Tonight would have been the easiest way to get Cesaro and Roman Reigns have a match. And instead, they go with the safe choice in Daniel Bryan, and Daniel Bryan gets choked out in about 2 minutes. I know what some of you are going to say, because it did cross my mind too. Well, maybe they didn't want Cesaro to get choked out in 2 minutes. And then you know what social media would say, and I probably would agree with it too. Cesaro never gets an opportunity, and the first opportunity he gets choked out in 2 minutes. So I guess no matter what, we weren't going to be satisfied. Tonight, it was all about, and we mentioned this Friday, whoever was going to win that Elimination Chamber was going to immediately face Roman Reigns, and I guess we could talk about that now. He was going to immediately face Roman Reigns for the championship. I did not think it was going to be the first match of the night, but that's what we got. And they were going to sell whoever it was, just went through a brutal Elimination Chamber. They were not going to be 100%. And that's exactly what they did. Yeah, Chris, I agree with you. With Cesaro, looking back on it, it was a lose-lose situation. And I'll tell you, man, I understand you want to sell the brutality of the Elimination Chamber. But man, there was no reason why Roman Reigns couldn't have had a 7-8 minute match with Cesaro. And guess what? If Roman Reigns would have won, even with a choke, I don't think anybody online would have had a problem with it, because it was a competitive match, and then they could say Cesaro wasn't at 100% to start. And guess what? If Roman Reigns kind of got taken to the limit for 6, 7, 8 minutes with Cesaro, then it makes the spear by Edge look a little bit more realistic. But what did Roman Reigns do? Got almost threatened with a yes lock and then choked out Daniel Bryan. Roman Reigns, I don't even think broke a sweat tonight. So, yeah, I think we're damned if they did, and we're damned if they didn't when it comes to Cesaro. And guess what? That sucks. Douglas MacKay, which match was shorter? The WWE Championship or the Universal title? Oof, you know what? They're probably very, they were close together. I personally think Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan may have been a drop longer, because the yes lock, he had it on for a little while, and then Roman Reigns, stalking Daniel Bryan, he nailed him with a couple of shots as well. So I would say probably the WWE Championship match with MIZ and Drew McIntyre. I think that's who it could have been. But, the opening for the Elimination Chamber, they had Daniel Bryan and Cesaro open it up. And yes, I'll talk about the kickoff match in a moment when we get to the United States title match. But they opened up with Daniel Bryan and Cesaro. And I was chatting with some people on the chat room earlier tonight. And, I was pointing out, and it was cool because I saw a lot of people online bringing it up too. There was one point during the Elimination Chamber where Cesaro, Daniel Bryan, Sami Zayn, and who was the fourth person? Daniel Bryan, Cesaro, Sami Zayn, and Daniel Bryan, Cesaro, Sami Zayn. Who is the fourth person? Why am I drawing a blank? I was looking at, Sami Zayn, Cesaro, Daniel Bryan. Who's the fourth person? And I'm drawing a blank right now. Kevin Owens. I was thinking American Dragon, Claudio Castagnoli, Sami Zayn's character, and Kevin Steen. And I was saying to myself, wow, for those who were involved in Ring of Honor at that time, it was pretty cool to see all four of them. It wasn't cool to see them all four laid out in the ring, but to see Kevin Owens and Cesaro and Sami Zayn and Daniel Bryan, El Generico, thank you, Doug MacKay. It was cool to see that. You add in Corbin and you add in Jey Uso, and it was a decent match. Ring of Honor definitely represented well. you look at NXT and you see like some Impact Wrestling stars getting some decent momentum now. So, the one thing, and maybe because it's Ring of Honor and the current state of Impact Wrestling, that it's not on the same level of Impact from 10 years ago or WCW, but we've always seen over the years that when somebody comes from another competitive company, that because it wasn't a home, how many times you heard this over the years, because someone isn't a homegrown talent, that WWE never or finds a hard time to get behind them. Goldberg was a great example, and others. But the more you see wrestlers, and look, the more outside of AEW, anybody that comes in from another company, it's not looked at as, oh, this is not a WWE homegrown talent. You could feel that with some wrestlers when they come in now, even if it's NWA, even if it's Impact Wrestling. AEW would be a different story, in my opinion, because of, all the exposure and everything that's going on. CZW is another one. But, this match early on, it was all about Baron Corbin dominating. And, it was funny because, I don't want to name anybody in particular, but I thought it was pretty funny to see some people online that are not big fans of WWE, like insisting on ripping the company because King Corbin was fighting two baby faces early in the match. It was Cesaro and Daniel Bryan going up at it with King Corbin. And this is what I said on Friday. It's every man for himself in those matches. If two people pair up together to beat up another person, it's not just baby face or heel. In the end, it's every man for himself. I just hate that argument when you're doing a match like this. It's not a tag team match, but they insist on bringing that up. But I tell you, early on, when you see Cesaro doing the pull-ups off the Elimination Chamber, he looked like he was having fun. Cesaro looked like he was having fun. Bryan, where is Christian? Probably asleep. These wrestlers, they get older, they usually go to sleep early. It's Sunday night. That's a stupid joke I've been doing since the 90s on this stuff. Somebody asked me late at night, like, where is so-and-so? I usually say they're in bed. They're probably sleeping. No, I think, look, Christian, when I get to, I'll say this now, Christian, since we're on the topic. One thing we feared was that Roman Reigns was going to beat the balls off of Christian, and that entices Edge to challenge Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Now, the good part is that wasn't the reason that put Edge over the edge, pun intended. But I'm still concerned that you will see Christian on TV. Christian, proud of his, friend and brother, and, from another mother, tag partner. And then Roman Reigns, to intensify the feud, will end up beating the shit out of Christian. So that could still very much happen. I don't know if I want that to happen, to be honest with you. So, and once again, much love to everybody who is with me live right now. If my friends and family on YouTube, if you don't mind, shout out to Steve Barbie, Mark Plumeri, Kalvinder Singh, Gil, Herbert Doherty, David Dawson, EPW show, what's going on, and a few others. They're hanging out on other, channels. Like I said, this is streaming on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, Periscope. I don't even know where else, but I try to make it accessible for other places, because not everybody likes YouTube, let's be honest, even though YouTube is my home. But much love. I hope you're enjoying it. So early on, Baron Corbin dominating, and Cesaro early on, it looked like he was having fun. And I tell you, as the match went on, the more I said to myself, oh shit, this is going to be great if they give it to Cesaro. Be nice, especially Cesaro. That promo he cut on Talking Smack last week, they should have aired it on TV. But then I thought, Maybe they didn't want to do that because they didn't want any extra attention on Cesaro, especially if he wins tonight. Just had that newspaper article, I think with the New York Post, it might have been over the weekend, that got a lot of attention. And early on, I'm thinking, Cesaro may actually get this. Cesaro hits the Cesaro swing on Corbin, and then he puts him in the sharpshooter, and Corbin gets eliminated. Look, there was no doubt Corbin was getting eliminated. Cesaro eliminating him early on, I think was pretty much expected. Kevin Owens, was pretty funny early on. You had various wrestlers enter in the ring before the chamber started. Kevin Owens wants to, just strangle some of them, and he's bashing his head into the plexiglass. And Kevin Owens is awesome. Seriously, what a difference from a couple of years ago. Seriously. Left Twix, YouTube is what pays bank? No, not necessarily. I mean, obviously, a lot of your super chats tremendously helps the channel, and helps me, pay the bills too. But that's, you take that away, I don't do commercials on the shows anymore, at the very beginning and the very end. But, so no, it doesn't make what you think. But now, since we have the merchandise, that helps a little bit too. So Kevin Owens early on, he wants to get in there. He is pissed off. Sami Zayn is trolling people. I'll tell you, that's one thing I liked about tonight also, that you would not get outside of COVID, and we've brought that up too, that little bit of intimate conversation. That little back and forth that MVP had with Morrison was hilarious. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, that back and forth that they had was great. So that little bit of verbiage you would not normally hear because of live fans yelling and screaming. Appreciate that, because soon enough, that will be pretty close to gone. So that was a lot of fun tonight too. That was a lot of fun tonight also. So Kevin Owens enters. Sami Zayn is already in as well. I personally think Sami Zayn should have been the first one in that match. They started with Daniel Bryan and Cesaro. Personally, I would have went with Sami Zayn and Daniel Bryan, because that whole video thing that Sami Zayn is recording, that there's a conspiracy against him with WWE. I mean, it's not that hard to think about it. Make Sami Zayn the first one out there. This way, it continues the story that, look, they even have it out for me in the Elimination Chamber. They made me first. They didn't do that. But Sami Zayn is involved in the match. Kevin Owens' pot opens up. Yes, Cassette Classics. Donzilla Army growing by the day. Absolutely, my brother. Absolutely. I love it. Big shout out to everybody. And to think, I'm doing this since 1997, and to still see some of you that are just new to the channel, didn't even know, that's awesome, man. We're just starting. I can't wait till a year from now to see where everything goes. So, but thank you, Cassette. Thank you. Lone Wolf, I get millions. Yeah, I don't know about that. Kevin Owens' pot opens, and Sami Zayn is telling him, we're not like them. We're not the poster boys. Let's do this together like old times. Trying to convince Kevin Owens, let's do this together. Doug MacKay, welcome to the family. Much love, my friend. Much love. Doug MacKay. Sami Zayn trying to convince Kevin Owens to work together. Kevin Owens won't have that. Kevin Owens grabs Sami Zayn. Oh my God, what are you doing? Splat. Smashes him in the plexiglass, beating the shit out of everybody, stunning everyone. Kevin Owens hitting a beautiful moonsault on everybody. And ultimately, Kevin Owens hitting the stunner to Sami Zayn, getting the win. For that time, Sami Zayn eliminated, Baron Corbin eliminated. So, we're down a few people. Jey Uso, the last person to enter, they're playing up the storyline that Roman Reigns pulled a couple of strings, so Jey Uso would be the last in line. And I tell you, it was a little bit uneventful, like the eliminations after this. The only one that I really liked was the elimination of Kevin Owens, because Jey Uso, and yeah, if you look back on it, they could have simply just pulled the cage door backwards, but they tried to sell it that the door opened, Kevin Owens' arm got stuck, intentionally by Jey Uso, outside the door, slammed it closed, so Kevin Owens' arm was trapped in the door. Jey Uso starts nailing him with super kicks, beating the shit out of him, and climbs the rope, hits the splash. Kevin Owens eliminated, just like that. Just like that. So now we're down to Jey Uso, Daniel Bryan, and Cesaro. And now they're selling that Daniel Bryan has a bad knee. At one point, Cesaro did the Cesaro swing to Daniel Bryan with just holding one leg. Just that shows you, how insane, Cesaro's power is. The guy is just a beast in the ring. And we talked about it on Friday, about his strength. But what ends up happening to Cesaro is, as he's doing the swing to Daniel Bryan, Jey Uso, kicks him in the face. And then he climbs up and splashes Cesaro for the 1, 2, 3 as well. And we're down to Daniel Bryan and Jey Uso. And even the end of that match felt abrupt. How many of you out there felt that match ended very abruptly? Daniel Bryan with the running knee, the Jey Uso, but felt that some people got eliminated awfully quick. I understand you have finishers being hit, but still, it just felt the Elimination Chamber, outside of maybe a dive here, a jump there, and, tangling Kevin Owens' arm, it doesn't feel like the Chamber was that much of a factor. But, look, in the end, Daniel Bryan with the running knee hits Jey Uso. And the reason why I say it felt abrupt, Michael, is because Jey Uso was pretty fresh in that match. Jey Uso took some abuse here and there, but I was a little surprised to see Jey Uso get pinned that quickly. But Daniel Bryan gets the win. Chamber lifts. Roman Reigns hits the ring. And very quickly, Daniel Bryan with a yes lock out of nowhere. They were selling early on that Daniel Bryan couldn't even stand. He had the leg injury, and out of nowhere, Daniel Bryan with a yes lock, Roman Reigns just pulls out of it with strength, starts wailing Daniel Bryan with a couple of shots, and then hits the chokes him out. And that's it. Daniel Bryan goes night-night. And that's how it ended. And with Roman Reigns celebrating, here's Edge, spears him out of nowhere. One spear, Edge, knocking Roman Reigns on his ass. Roman Reigns selling it like he broke ribs. And like I said, I have no problem with the storyline of Edge versus Roman Reigns if it's played out on TV. Good. I tell you one thing why I'm fine with it tonight. Because what happened on Friday was only 48 hours ago. We went off the air Friday on SmackDown with Roman Reigns spearing Edge. And even Roman Reigns went on Twitter and said, "You opened up my show, you ain't closing my show." So sometimes we make spur-of-the-moment decisions. We don't have time to think about it. We make a decision, and maybe if we had more time, maybe we would have thought about it, made a different decision. So, yeah, for people that don't know, when you are a member, you turn green. Like the Incredible Hulk, you turn green. That's why some of the names are green for people that ask. So, and I don't have control of the colors, I don't believe. So, but look, 48 hours ago, Edge is getting speared by Roman Reigns to close out SmackDown. So, in storyline, didn't even give Edge enough time to really think about it. Spur of the moment, I'm going to get this son of a bitch back. Spears him at Elimination Chamber. I'm your opponent at Mania. So the fact that this wasn't played out for a week or two after what we saw Friday is a good thing. Yes, C-Med, you said it perfectly. It was a quick receipt back to Roman Reigns. Now, the only thing is, the more you think about it, the more what we thought early on. I don't see Roman Reigns losing to Edge at WrestleMania. That's my feeling right now. Of course, it could change in the next 49 days or whatever it is. But as of right now, I see Roman Reigns keeping that belt into the summertime. So we will see. So look, fun Elimination Chamber match. Nothing much afterwards with Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns. And again, as few said earlier, we were probably damned if we got it and damned if we didn't get it. Cesaro, looking back on it, maybe we wouldn't have wanted to see him win the chamber just to get choked out in 2 minutes. Who knows? Maybe we'll get Roman Reigns. No. I was going to say Roman Reigns and Cesaro at Fastlane. I wouldn't mind it. Hey, maybe they could do something simple like Friday and say, look, bunch of people in a match, winner gets Roman Reigns at Fastlane. Cesaro wins. No storyline needed. Acme Insta-feud, as I used to say. So next, we get that backstage segment I talked about earlier with Sonya Deville, Bad Bunny, The Miz, and Damian Priest. We'll see what Miz says to Bad Bunny on Raw tomorrow. Like I said earlier, you know what's going to happen. Miz is going to open up. You got that 24/7 title, I get this. As long as we don't get any title shot between Bad Bunny and Miz, I'm fine. Neil Ray says Cesaro should get the IC title as soon as possible. You know, when we got up to the Royal Rumble, we were giving a lot of praise to Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan is doing a lot of creative, he's got a lot of creative input on SmackDown. And if you notice, a month leading into the Royal Rumble, Shinsuke Nakamura, and it was awesome, the timing, because right after the New Year, we had that conversation on a Friday episode that, man, Shinsuke could still go. Why isn't WWE utilizing this guy and giving him so? And literally in the next week, win. And dominating win. Then Cesaro, win. And you started to see it online. Hey, is Shinsuke and Cesaro, they getting pushed now? And the one thing that you and I kept saying over and over again is, let's hope that this lasts past the Royal Rumble. Because WWE has a history of doing that. Leading into the Royal Rumble, they start giving this, I don't want to say fake push, but they give this smoke and mirrors push to certain people to make it feel like they have some chance in the Royal Rumble. And as soon as the Royal Rumble comes and goes, there goes their push as well. Kofi was a great example years ago. This is before his world title reign, but years before that, I used to get ripped apart on the shows because about 3-4 weeks before the Royal Rumble, Kofi would start. People forget there was a point where Kofi got a shitload of losses before New Day, especially. And he would suddenly get a flurry of wins right before the Royal Rumble. And we would say that, he's going to do that spectacular acrobatic spot on the Royal Rumble. And then when the Royal Rumble ends, so goes his streak of wins. And that would happen year after year after year. So now we're at a crossroads with Cesaro and Nakamura. Where do you go from here? We didn't get Big E defending the championship today. They're playing the injury angle. So what's in the cards? Where is Cesaro and Nakamura a month from now? They already had the tag titles and it felt very uneventful. So where are these two guys a month from now? I'm a little concerned. So now we get the United States title match. Now, here's the deal. I'm not going to blame it on COVID, but there were a little more than a week ago, when they announced Riddle versus Keith Lee versus Bobby Lashley for the United States title Elimination Chamber. There was rumblings that Keith Lee wasn't 100%. Now, there were also reports earlier about COVID. And the thing is, a lot of people don't understand this. And I'm not going to get into all the scientific data about it. But there's even an article that came out a few days ago. And it's a pretty big article online if you search out for it. And they say that up to 30% of people who did get hit with COVID had some side effects months and months later on. Up to 6 months, they were still dealing with side effects. It would come and go and come and go and come and go. So I'm not going to sit here and clickbait or lie and say that, complications of COVID. They had COVID before they recovered from it. But the thing is that we don't know. Just because we see somebody larger than life on television and they come back from COVID, that doesn't mean that a little complication here and there is not going to come back. So about a week ago, there started to be some rumblings that Keith Lee might not be 100%. And yes, no doubt about it, a lot of people are frustrated with WWE's use of Keith Lee since he's on the main roster. His music changed. Now we understand why it had to be changed. They changed his look. Can't be out there without a shirt anymore. And some of the match choices have not been all that great. But, we saw a very powerful documentary with Keith Lee. And we're in the midst of WrestleMania time. And I said this a couple of years ago about Finn Balor. And that's one thing that people remember me more than anything from a couple of years ago for. That it was a couple of years ago with Finn Balor. People were talking the same thing about Finn Balor on the main roster like they were with Keith Lee. And we were only about 5 months before WrestleMania. And, I got on the shows and I said, look, I know I was a little bit distasteful with my words, but I said WWE's not going to blow their load with every single person that is on the main roster simply so everybody gets an opportunity. There is no rush with Finn Balor. Get through WrestleMania and then see what happens. And it's exactly what happened. It's happened with others in the past. There is no reason why Keith Lee should be pushed to the moon right now. Number one, he's not winning the World Heavyweight Championship. Number two, you're not going to say to me that he would have been a better United States champion than Lashley the past bunch of months. He doesn't have a tag team partner on TV. So what title does everybody expect that he would have won? The 24/7 title? Could you imagine if Keith Lee won the 24/7 championship? So when people say these things, you have to really dissect it a little bit and say, okay, what would have been different? If they would have given him more substantial wins, then you would have been like, oh, well, they're not giving him a championship belt. Whose title? Whose title? So that's why, we'll talk about it tomorrow. I don't want to get into it today. But Friday, I had a little fun with a podcaster, somebody who posted a great opinion column on WWE's use of Keith Lee on the main roster, and people interpret it as a news article and decided to clickbait the world about WWE's dissatisfaction with Keith Lee, and it's all garbage. It's garbage. But there were rumblings a week ago about Keith Lee not being 100%, and they were waiting until literally match time to see if he can go. That is one of the reasons why they did the audible with Kofi in the Elimination Chamber. If Kofi wasn't ready to return, they would have left MIZ in the Elimination Chamber. And if you look at it now, MIZ didn't need the Elimination Chamber. He cashed in anyway, which obviously makes sense in the storyline when you see it tonight. But Kofi was literally game time that, okay, I'm good to go for the chamber. And they made the switch. You'll probably see news reports that if Kofi wasn't 100% and couldn't be in the chamber, that Miz could have possibly won the chamber and still gotten some type of an opportunity. I don't know how they would have put it together. I don't work for them. We don't get paid for that. So Keith Lee, at game time, they announced today that he cannot compete. So they had a match on the kickoff show. It was Mustafa Ali versus Ricochet versus Elias versus Morrison. And the winner of that match would take Keith Lee's spot in the United States title match. Morrison got the win. I predicted early on Morrison, but I really wanted to see Ricochet in that spot. I would have liked to have seen Ricochet get an opportunity, not necessarily win the title, but, you know, the match, you know, it's a typical, it felt like a Raw match. Ricochet goes to dive onto Retribution. They catch him. They throw him into the corner. And then Mustafa Ali distracted Morrison with the inside cradle. I don't know what it is with promotions with inside cradle roll-ups on high-profile matches, but we've seen a lot of that lately. Shout out to David Dawson tuning in. Right now it is almost 4 o'clock in the morning in the UK. He's got to go to work in a few hours. So seriously, much love, my friend. Much love. And everybody hanging out with me tonight, much love as always. As you can see, a little bit feeling better. You know, for those that don't know, Thursday night I got the second COVID shot. So I am now fully vaccinated. In a week or two, I will supposedly be close to immune to this virus. I could still catch COVID, but supposedly the complications would be like this compared to a full-blown thing. So now I start trying to figure out if I could get to WrestleMania. We'll see. Maybe we'll hang out. We'll see what happens. So John Morrison rolls up Ali, gets the win. Morrison goes on to the United States title match. So we get that match during Elimination Chamber. Match was all right. I mean, Lashley dominating. And I truthfully, this is a match that I got wrong. And yes, maybe, you know, I thought with Riddle and Keith Lee, maybe Riddle and Keith Lee would have beat the shit out of each other and Lashley, you know, dominates at the end and gets the win. I don't know if I would have changed my pick since Morrison was in it. I didn't think Morrison was winning the championship, but I tell you, interesting to see Riddle win it, especially how they have made him like a stoned pothead beach bum. And I'm not saying that to rip Riddle. I've been saying it repeatedly. I am now a fan of the guy. I like his work. But this whole character, it's just, he's so, like, his character is so brain dead with outdated references and munchies and this and that. You know, I don't know. It's hard to take that seriously. We'll see where it goes. But, you know, the match was good while it lasted. Morrison and Riddle battling each other. It felt a little bit off. They were doing a shitload of reversals, and it just seemed a little bit off. But towards the end of the match, you know, it was funny because Morrison almost got a pin on Lashley. And MVP, because there's no crowd in the attendance, and they lowered the piped-in noise so you could hear the back and forth with Morrison and MVP. You know, MVP's talking smack to Morrison, and MVP's like, you thought that would stop the almighty Lashley? And Morrison's like, will you just shut the hell up? And they were going back and forth. Lashley locks the Hurt Lock onto Morrison. So now we're thinking, okay, the match is about to end. Well, MVP, who does have a legitimate injury, had a crutch at ringside. So Riddle grabs MVP's crutch and he starts smashing Lashley with it in the back. Broke it into a million pieces. And as a result, that breaks the Hurt Lock and Lashley gets knocked out of the ring. So Matt Riddle hits the Bro Derek onto Morrison for the win. So Lashley never got pinned. Lost his title, never got pinned. Funny back and forth with MVP and Morrison. I have no problem with Riddle being the champion if this is going to lead to Lashley and the main event title picture. I just hope they start tweaking Riddle's character a little bit. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Obviously, a lot of this will be answered on Raw Monday night. Now we get, for me, the worst match of the night. Look, there was no match that was bad. But to me, the women's tag team championship match tonight was not needed. I understand why they did it. In hindsight, you could see it. They only have 5 matches. They needed some big names on this card. And having Nia Jax, with all due respect, having Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler versus Naomi and Lana was not going to cut it. You're not going to have Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez on Elimination Chamber. That match is going to be set for an NXT event to go up against AEW. And they already announced it. It's going to happen on March 3rd. In fact, I won't be surprised if that match goes on at the same time. It's Shaq and Jade versus Red Velvet and Cody. So we get this tag match tonight. It was exactly what we feared was going to happen on Friday. Reginald being in that match on Friday was to plant the seed for Reginald to cost them the match tonight. And that's exactly what happened. Nia and Shayna, having some back and forth with Sasha and Bianca. It to me, honestly, I thought Shayna did the best out of everybody in this match, because if you look at it closely, even when Bianca was setting up some of her moves, like Shayna was laid out on the mat, but you could see Shayna looking at Bianca, and every time Bianca was supposed to hit a move, Shayna would go out of the way. So she actually did common sense, what anybody would do. But I called them Vagabald. Instead of Reginald, I called him Vagabald on Friday, because a lot of people online are getting triggered thinking that WWE it's like the reverse of toxic masculinity, that there's a lot of men online. You think I'm kidding? Just do a social media search. But there's a lot of men online that you could tell are very fragile already. And look, I'm not trying to be like any of this PC thing, but it's just funny to see people online getting triggered because Reginald is getting slapped by women, getting wine spit in his face, getting demeaned, made fun of, and this guy's having the time of his life right now. Don't go get too deep with Reginald. But you had that fear Friday that Reginald was going to come out there and cause a distraction, and as a result, Sasha and Bianca get pinned. That's exactly what happened tonight. The match was messy. It had its moments here and there. I don't think there was any real threat of them winning the tag belts. You think about the fact that Lana and Naomi should have legitimately been in a match already. This was put together because they only had 5 matches on the card and they needed names, bigger names on it. That's why this match went down. If you look at it, it didn't help the storyline with Sasha and Bianca. It didn't help it at all. Because, and you remember I said this Friday, I said this 2 days ago, I said, how stupid is it going to look that Bianca and Sasha are going to argue each other, blaming each other for Reginald's interference? Remember that? If that happens Friday, you know how stupid that's going to look? Well, I'm the one that didn't get pinned. I'm the one that didn't get distracted. I'm the one that... It's stupid. It was not needed. The EST versus the boss. That's it. I'm the EST. I'm the greatest. I'm the boss. That's it. The best versus the best. Perfect storyline. You don't need the butler to get involved. You didn't need Nia and Shayna to get involved. This match did nothing. It did nothing. It didn't help anybody tonight. It didn't, and in the end, Nia and Shayna retained. If you want to look at some consolation, at least they didn't give the belts to Sasha and Bianca. So when they lose, it causes a split. That was definitely not needed. We need to stop having people hold multiple championships at the same time. It just keeps happening over and over. You know, Asuka wasn't too long ago. She had 2 belts. Stop with it. Stop with it. What did Antonio say? He could see Reginald and Velveteen Dream doing business together. I don't know. I don't know where you're going with that. I don't know if I want to know. So, are we already up to the main event? Jesus Christ. Wait a minute. We did the SmackDown Elimination Chamber. We did Roman Reigns' match. We did MVP. Holy shit. So we're already in the last match. I don't want this recap to be longer than the pay-per-view. But we're up to the main event. And this Elimination Chamber, something tells me, no, we talked about it at the beginning of the show, King of James. MVP seen talking to MIZ, and we didn't know what that's about. Obviously, that'll be revealed on Raw. But even when you think about it, that kind of doesn't make sense because Miz's guy, his boy, Morrison, caused Lashley to lose the championship tonight. So how does this benefit Lashley? Oh, well, I'll make a deal with you. If you help me win the championship, I'll give you the first title opportunity. In storyline, if Miz was going to take himself out of the Elimination Chamber because he wants a title, he could get a title shot whenever he wants, and that makes sense. Why would Lashley want to make a deal with the devil? Lashley is the biggest, most dominant motherfucker on the WWE roster right now, and that's not somebody I want to face. You know what I mean? So however it looks, this seems like it's going to be a little bit of a mess. It's going to be a mess. But like I said, going into WrestleMania, I don't see Miz being champion. We got a pay-per-view still to go. By the way, shout out to our current members of the family. We added some members tonight. So I will add you tomorrow to the list, obviously. So much love as always. And once again, if you don't mind me asking, if you're enjoying the show, I would greatly appreciate it. Smash that, we showed that one already. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, smash that like button, subscribe, and this way you're notified whenever new shows come up. And big shout out to everybody who's enjoying the show tonight. Much love. Like I say this all the time, I know some newer listeners, viewers are tuning in right now, not usually, but believe me when I tell you, you know, your support really pushes me to give you 200%. You know, I just, why would I not give you anything less? You know, it's like, you support me, I owe it to you to strive to give you the best. I owe it to you to be here every show. I owe it to you to not make excuses why I'm not doing a show here and there. I owe it to you to try to have fun as much as possible. I'll always be looked like as an asshole to a lot of people out there. I'll never be polished. I'll never be professional. I'll never be politically correct. But one thing you get with me is straight out honesty, and I will work hard. So, and I try to be the mouthpiece for some of you out there because I know a lot of you out there feel the same way with me in a lot of things, and I get the opportunity to do it through this for you. So I'm privileged, without a doubt, of being able to do that. I don't take it for granted. I'll never take any of you for granted. No bullshit. So anyway, main event. Elimination Chamber. Drew McIntyre defends against Sheamus, Jeff Hardy, Randy Orton, Kofi Kingston, and AJ Styles. Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton come out there first. Not as vicious as before. We didn't get any pencils in the eardrum like before with with Jeff Hardy. Like, we didn't see any, like, shoved up his hole and handcuffed to the gate or anything like that. Thank you, Austin, for the kind words. Authenticity. So many people online that just hype bullshit just to get attention, man. You'll never get that from me. Never. And that's probably why I don't get the number of viewers than others out there. Tomorrow, I'll tell a cute little story that me and somebody did on over the weekend. 99% of you will get a kick out of it. There'll be a few that might get a little angry at it, but, we'll talk about it tomorrow. So, but, yeah, Jack, we talked about it earlier. Miz, 10 years ago, was champion. Big difference 10 years makes. Miz, as much as people don't like the guy, Miz, in his role, you may not agree with this, but you have to admit, what WWE, look, we don't work for WWE, obviously. So when we show up for work, whether you work in an office or you work in a deli, a supermarket, a gas station, a post office, a clothing store, a computer store, when you work for someone else and you show up to work, sometimes you show up to work, hey, boss, what do you need me to do? Do me a favor, take care of this person. Yeah, no problem. Hey, do me a favor. Could you take care of this outside? Hey, could you answer that call? No problem. As far as Miz, he shows up for work, and what WWE asks of him to do, he does. He doesn't write this stuff. He probably pitches ideas from time to time, but shout out to DQ. I have no idea what you're talking about, but funny nonetheless. Thank you, Havili, Bryan. I appreciate that. But Miz, whether you like him or not, does exactly what WWE tells him to do. You could kind of say the same thing for Morrison. And I think most of you out there will agree that it's frustrating with Morrison because you know how much better he has improved from his days prior to leaving WWE. You saw what he did in Lucha. You saw what he did in Impact Wrestling. You know that this guy has improved leaps and bounds, and WWE chooses. And don't get me wrong, Morrison may love everything he's doing right now because he doesn't have to work as hard as he used to. This is going to prolong his career. Nonetheless, we're the ones watching it on TV, and we get frustrated to see how he is used many times. Jeff Hardy, it's a little different. Jeff Hardy's on the tail end of his career. So Jeff Hardy, they kind of use him more to help put over others. Although for some reason, a lot of the people he's losing to maybe don't have the same number of years in it as him. But it's not like he's losing to a very young, up-and-coming star week after week after week. He got choked out week after week after week from Bobby Lashley. They did that stuff with Elias that seemed to have gone nowhere. By the way, why was even Elias in that match early? I might have forgot Elias's name earlier with the match. The guy did absolutely nothing. And it's strange because Elias, and look, I've said this about Orange Cassidy in AEW. AEW's realized that everything about Orange Cassidy is that interaction with fans. Orange Cassidy has a huge following online, but when it comes to TV, that crowd reaction, that noise, that buzz, the interaction, that's where Orange Cassidy is used at his finest. When it comes to Elias, yes, SoFly, you heard a vacuum. That is my fiance blow drying her hair. I didn't realize that because this mic is usually there's a big up noise in the back. Yeah, she was blow drying her hair. So, but Elias, this guy dissing the audience when there's no live audience, without that, you have pretty much nothing. It's just amazing that when you put all your eggs in one basket when it comes to a particular wrestler and you can't utilize what is in that basket, they look like a deer in headlights. And look, Jordan, do I think Elias' stock has plummeted? The perception is without a doubt that he has plummeted, but it's just because WWE was insistent on having him always with the guitar in the ring and dissing the crowd. They tried to make him babyface. The problem is he ran out of heels to diss, and we've brought this up before. You know, when you're a heel and you're doing what he's doing and you have live fans in attendance, every show you go to, you got a new person to make fun of. You go to upstate New York, you make fun of the Buffalo Bills. You go to Florida, you make fun of the Tampa Bay Rays. You go to California, you make fun of San Diego. You go to Texas, you make fun of, if you really want to go there, you make fun of, their electrical grids. There's never-ending material. Never-ending material. They decided to turn this guy heel in the middle of fucking COVID. What do you have? What do you have? I don't even think, seriously, and I apologize if I did that. I don't even think I mentioned his name before. That's how bad they've turned him into a footnote. And that's a shame. That is a real. Now, the good thing about it is he's not injured right now, and he's still very young, so they can still do a lot with this guy. But man, they need to reverse something. Maybe not in time for WrestleMania, but he probably wouldn't have been in my choice in the top 20 people to put in that match tonight in the kickoff. So we get the Elimination Chamber. Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton started out. Drew McIntyre is next to come out, which was a little bit surprising. But it was nice to see Drew in the match early on. We seen, for the most part, it was a lot of Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton to open it up. Kofi Kingston, the next one to come out, and then Sheamus, who won the match last week, to basically give him the right to come out last. I'll tell you the truth, the more I think about it, it made sense for Drew to come out third. He wasn't going to come out first or second. And if he would have came out next to last, it really wouldn't have been much of a difference between him and Sheamus. But yes, thoughts and prayers, without a doubt, to Texas. You know, I think today they hit 70 degrees. So that's one thing we got to be really, really happy for them for. That bitter cold seems to be in the back mirror, the rearview mirror. But still, all the damage that it has done, Jesus. I mean, there's some wild videos online. It's amazing to see. I was talking to a friend that's on Patreon today that lives in Texas that's going through this really bad. And I said, it sounds like they were better prepared in 1920 than 2020. I mean, it's just amazing how unprepared they were. So, look, you would have thought, especially after Superstorm Sandy that leveled this area, you would have thought that people in other areas, whether it's warmth or rain or floods, that they would have realized, we got to be prepared for the worst case scenario and not put it off. Not put it off and try to be proactive with stuff. I'm sure a lot of you out there, even with your cars, you may have in your trunk like this big kit, not just for flat tires, but in case you have a battery goes out or this goes out, and you got flares and emergency blankets and water and pee fill-up things. Don't ask me why I have one here, but I have one here. I kid you not. You have it in a car, and if you got to pee and you can't pull over anyway, you pee in this. Don't ask me why I have one in this room. No, I have never used one during the show. If I really need to go that bad, I will tell everybody, hang out for a minute, I'll be right back. And yes, I will wash my hands. But, hopefully the worst is over for Texas. So getting back to the Elimination Chamber match, Jeff and Randy Orton started out. Drew comes in third. Kofi is next. And then you get Sheamus. Now, I don't understand the use of Randy Orton in this match. I could see, I would have been fine with it if they would have teased The Fiend or teased Alexa Bliss, and Randy Orton turns around to look, Kofi rolls him up. But we have every man in this match. No one is eliminated. And when I say abrupt, I think we'll all agree it was abrupt. Out of nowhere, Kofi pins Randy Orton. Uneventful, came out of nowhere, and then Randy Orton, because he's pissed off, he hits an RKO to Kofi, hits an RKO to Jeff Hardy. And AJ Styles, which I still don't understand this. Maybe AJ Styles did it more to pin Kofi or Jeff Hardy and not to get away from Randy Orton. But after Randy Orton gets eliminated, and trust me, it was abrupt. I saw that and I said, man, talk about using someone for just name value. It just, I don't know, I thought it was really, really horrible. I would have rather have seen a tease of Alexa or The Fiend. Let him get distracted. Let him get rolled up. That's fine. And you know what? That would have made more sense because Randy Orton could have came out on Raw and said that Alexa Bliss is playing mind games with him. If he wants to be a little perverted, he could say that he likes it, turns him on a little bit. But he could have used that and saying that you ruined my opportunity to get my title. No, instead, just a roll up. Randy Orton, let's see what he does to Kofi on TV. Probably nothing. AJ, you know what? Did he botch the 450? You know, look, nobody's perfect in everything that they do. Sometimes, you know, you have a little slip here and there. I didn't think it was that big of a deal, to be honest with you. But what happened was after Randy Orton gets eliminated, he RKO's Jeff Hardy, RKO's Kofi, and AJ Styles is literally begging almost to rip the back plexiglass out of the chamber. And at first, it looked like AJ Styles was trying to escape from Randy Orton, which I don't know how that would have been because the chamber was still locked. But almost begging to rip it open. He does rip it open. And AJ Styles gets out. And when Randy Orton exits the cage, AJ and Randy Orton have a staring match. So you realize right away, okay, AJ wasn't trying to get away from Randy Orton because they were literally just right this close to each other, looking at each other. Randy Orton keeps walking. AJ tries to get a couple of pins, even though his pod didn't open up. Adam Pearce comes out, and Adam Pearce suddenly gives a shit about interference. Adam Pearce basically ejects Omos from the ring. So Omos goes to the back. All right, whatever. So now we're down to Jeff Hardy, Drew McIntyre, Kofi, and Sheamus. Actually, this Sheamus wasn't in the match yet. Sheamus is in now. And it was cool because when they did the countdown, when they were using the Royal Rumble soundboard, you know, with the fans chanting 10-1. But right before Sheamus came in there, Drew McIntyre's having to stand down with Sheamus, and they're beating the shit out of each other. And it was funny because at one point, while Sheamus and Drew were beating up on each other, Jeff Hardy and Kofi come over, and like they're trying to get at him, and it almost looked like, you know, when two people are like having fun and two other like little kids run over, hey, I want to play too, and you're like, get the fuck out of here. That's what it kind of looked like to me. It's like, you know, leave us alone. Let us do what we have to do. So they're scattered. Am I lying? Seriously, people. Why was Adam Pearce so goddamn angry? Why was this? And by the way, where was Adam Pearce when Bobby Lashley came out? What was he, taking a shit again? And by the way, I thought this was funny. When they opened up the pay-per-view tonight with the SmackDown Elimination Chamber, there was this, at one point, that was kind of strange. They did this whole promo package setting up the chamber. It had Roman Reigns in it and a bunch of others. And they had already announced, I think, 2 or 3 people in the match. And when it came time to announce Cesaro, they aired another long vignette. And then Cesaro's music hit. And honestly, I joked in the chat room tonight, but after I thought about it, I'm like, no, I think I'm serious. I think Cesaro was probably taking a dump or he was in the bathroom because they aired this second vignette out of nowhere for really, it seemed like no reason. And then when Cesaro, when he was walking down the rampway, he looked like he had just taken a dump. Any of you out there ever take a dump and you're finished, you're wiped, you washed your hands, you pick up your pants, and you start walking, and you don't have to go still, but you still have that feeling like you might have to go still, but you know that there's nothing there. Yes, Hydro said it too. He looked like he had just taken a massive dump, and when Cesaro was walking down that ring, I'm telling you, go back and watch it. Cesaro, I wouldn't be, if anybody ever gets the opportunity to interview him next couple of days, ask him, say, you have to, like, were you like in the bathroom, like before they caught? He looked like he had to take a shit. Neil says Omos looked like he did too, but Cesaro, I'm serious. Austin, go back and look. Cesaro looked like he had the same walk like me after I take a dump. And if you still feel like, there might be something there still, but there isn't. So you kind of like walk a little gingerly for some reason. That's what it looked like. But Adam Pearce, think about this. Elimination Chamber. Like the most dangerous, life-changing structure. And Adam Pearce gets triggered because a piece of plexiglass gets ripped off. But meanwhile, he's nowhere to be found when Bobby Lashley, no, it's okay, rip out the plexiglass for the match that's for the title, but not do nothing when Bobby Lashley's doing what he's doing. I mean, at least have Adam Pearce looking on the rampway and watching what's going on. Lashley comes out and destroys Drew McIntyre, and Adam Pearce is outside having an ice cream on the corner. And I'm only talking about the character. I am a big fan of Adam Pearce. Always been. Can't criticize the guy. Just perception of storyline, very stupid tonight. So, Sheamus comes out brawling with Drew McIntyre a little bit. Omos gets ejected from Adam Pearce. Next thing we know, bro kick. Kofi Kingston. Gone. Kofi, some spots here and there, but Kofi, I think some people may say a little bit less eventful from matches years past. Obviously, we always remember that Elimination Chamber that got him to the heavyweight title shot, but this time around a little bit less eventful, getting the bro kick and getting pinned. I think some people kind of thought that was out of nowhere as well. Jeff Hardy with some decent offense tonight, did a real beautiful moonsault on the Drew McIntyre and Sheamus. But in the end, Jeff Hardy, I believe, attempted to do a swanton and got hit with a claymore in air, and that looked pretty sweet. And Jeff Hardy gets claymored by Drew McIntyre. Jeff Hardy was eliminated. Yes, I agree, SoFly. There's some great timing with Drew McIntyre. He's a big mother effer. So he's got some pretty damn good timing with these smaller guys. Very easy to be 1 second slower than the lighter guys, and trust me, that gets exposed a lot, especially in indie circuit. So he's got some great ass timing with AJ Styles and Jeff Hardy. But in the end, Jeff Hardy, have a good night, James Pascal. He's got to get up for work. We're almost done over here. Pretty much done. I'll be done probably in 5 minutes. How long have we been doing this recap already? About 90 minutes? Close to 2 hours? Yeah, we got to start wrapping this up. How long have we been doing this recap? Oh, yeah, about 2 hours. Hour and 53. Okay. So, Jeff Hardy gets claymored by Drew, gets pinned. So now it's down to AJ Styles, Drew McIntyre, and Sheamus. AJ Styles getting the upper hand on Drew, but not finishing him off. So Sheamus verbally yelling at AJ Styles towards the end of the match. Why didn't you put him away, fella? So Sheamus does those shots to the chest. I don't think he hit 10 with AJ Styles. But then what ends up happening is we get a bro kick by Sheamus to Drew McIntyre. And out of nowhere, AJ Styles hits the phenomenal forearm to Sheamus, literally a second after. Bro kick by Sheamus to Drew before Sheamus could even attempt a pin. AJ Styles hits a phenomenal forearm, pins Sheamus. So we're down to AJ Styles and Drew McIntyre. And this finish happened almost immediately after. AJ Styles attempts to go for a phenomenal forearm. And Drew, again, beautiful timing with AJ Styles. He nails a Claymore and gets the win. So Drew McIntyre retains. Yeah, the moonsault was great. I'm telling you, these guys work their asses off. Problem is, some of those pins really uneventful, especially when you fight. This is the difference. SmackDown, you're fighting for the opportunity to fight for the title. Here, it's a title match. So when you watch these people having one-on-ones and they're kicking out at like 1,000 times during a match, 2 7/8, 2 99/100, and an elimination chamber where they're not even affected by the chamber and they get hit with one move and they get pinned. It doesn't look very good. It really minimized the chamber in a lot of ways. So, but yeah, the Claymore onto AJ Styles looked great. Drew gets the win. The chamber immediately lifts up. So we're wondering, we going to get anything afterwards? Now, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, all right, who is going to face Drew at WrestleMania? Are we going to have to get through Fastlane first? That's why if you look at my Twitter, at DonTonyD, about 2 hours before the pay-per-view ended, I wrote as part of my teaser, are we going to get Drew versus Lashley at Fastlane? I'm not going to lie to you. I did not think it would be non-title. I thought Drew was going to retain and maybe Lashley takes on Drew at Fastlane. And if that's the case, I'm fine with it. Little did we know. And honestly, when Lashley came out, started beating the shit out of Drew, I'm like, oh man, that makes my tweet look like spot on. Then Miz's music hits. Now I'm immediately thinking of the net. And I was saying, oh my God, here it comes. Here it comes. If this guy cashes in and actually wins. He cashes in. No clusterfucks. Good that, made sense that Morrison was not out there. Whether he lost earlier or not, it would have been stupid to have Lashley or in the same vicinity as Morrison. But he cashes in the briefcase. He nails Drew with, I don't remember what move it was. It wasn't the skull-crushing finale at first. He got a 2 count. Then he hit the skull-crushing finale again for a 2 count. But then I think he hit it a 3rd time and actually got the pin. Yeah, James, I could only imagine. Look, we started the show immediately after, so I could only imagine how social media was acting as a result. Jack, if Morrison has a bad attitude in real life, you know what? It doesn't reflect on his work on TV, so I really can't, criticize him. A lot of us sometimes don't like our jobs. Seriously, we get not too thrilled about it. I love doing this for all of you. No bullshit. It's a lot of fun. It doesn't feel like work. But Miz is now your champion. Now, again, Bad Bunny, I know, look, let me repeat this for the 1,000th time. I'm not a fan of Bad Bunny. I'm not a fan of his music. I don't listen to that type of music. But I've been saying all along, I have no problem with him doing a little bit of stuff. This is a guy that is a lifelong wrestling fan, and he's taking it seriously. He is protecting whatever he does. He's not like this goof, that machine gun goof that get powerbombed from Kevin Owens and then writes on social media a half hour later, don't worry, everybody, I'm fine. I'm fine. I know he didn't sound like Rodney Dangerfield, but no, I'm fine. I'm fine. Fuck you. Because he couldn't handle people writing, oh, he killed you. He killed you. This guy's taking this shit seriously. And you know what? He performs music I don't like. He performs for fans that are not in my genre. But the guy's a lifelong wrestling fan. He's taking this shit seriously. He's having fun. He's putting all his work into it. How could you complain? How can you complain? But obviously, the reason why I'm saying this now is what I said earlier. Obviously, his interaction with Miz is far from over. I would not be surprised Bad Bunny causes Miz to lose this championship, as dumb as that may sound. And especially since Damian Priest is Drew McIntyre's friend. Don't be surprised if Drew McIntyre gets another opportunity at that title, and maybe because of Bad Bunny, he gets it back, and Miz is so incensed that him and Morrison challenge Bad Bunny and Damian Priest for a match at WrestleMania, and that's probably where they're going to go. It'd be interesting if they contact Cardi B. I tell you, anything is possible. And look, wrestling, obviously, for us diehard, hardcore wrestling fans, we don't normally like outside entertainers getting involved. And the reason, more than anything, is that most of the outside entertainers are just looking for another line on their resume. And they could care less about pro wrestling. When they're supposed to get embarrassed from a heel cutting a promo, they'll add an extra line or two, and they'll try to ad-lib on their own, try to save themselves. You've seen it over the years. There's a lot of entertainers that don't give a shit about wrestling. But you know what? Once in a while, since we've always, you go back to the 70s with some entertainers involved. Muhammad Ali, I wouldn't call just an entertainer. He was legit in the boxing ring. But, we had in the 80s, the 90s, 2000s, we've had celebrities get involved. So, if this is the extent of it, if it doesn't embarrass and the person is committed to doing the right thing, I don't know how anybody could criticize that. So that is your pay-per-view. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give it a 6. And I would probably even lean towards a 5 or a 5.5 if it wasn't for the fact that we had 2 decent Elimination Chamber matches. There were moments that were great. There were moments that were kind of caca. But I think in the end, because we had, 2 decent Elimination Chamber matches, I will give it a 6. Riddle winning the title was a little unexpected. That match was okay. The women's tag match, by far, my least favorite match of the night. Which match did I enjoy the most? Probably the SmackDown Elimination Chamber. Like I said, it was just the work that Sami Zayn did was excellent. Kevin Owens was excellent. Cesaro was excellent. Jey Uso was excellent. I mean, really nobody, everybody did their part. We're not thrilled, most of us, with the outcome of the chamber because we really wanted Cesaro, many of us, at least once. And who knows, maybe that happens at Fastlane, like I said earlier. I don't know. But I like that match the most. So my favorite match, the SmackDown Elimination Chamber. Least favorite match, the women's tag team match. I still don't even understand why that match took place, but it did. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I give the pay-per-view a 6. So anyway, I'm going to jet out of here. I'll tell you, that's the one good thing about this pay-per-view ending so early tonight. Right now it is 11:40 p.m. Eastern. We did a full-blown 2-hour recap, and we're not at midnight yet, which means that I could still get my ass a decent night's sleep tonight. I got to work, obviously, on Monday. But much love, Darren, Jack, Janelle, Chris, Big T, Darren, Da Vinci, Smoking Hydro, George Burns, James, Jack, Mystery Man, Austin, Hydro, David, the list goes on and on and on. Onzimo, Vlinda, Psycho. Much love, everybody. As I always say, on your way out, if you enjoyed the show, I'd appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. More you do that, legit, the more you do that, the more you're telling YouTube you enjoyed the show, you recommend it to others. They, in turn, recommend the show to others. And I appreciate all your support. If you're around Monday night at 11:05 p.m. Eastern, join me. I will be here after Raw, and we will have another fun show, and we will see what the fallout is on Raw. Wonder if they would go that far to having another title change on Raw. Wouldn't that be something? if Miz only had the belt for 24 hours? Think WWE would have the balls to do something like that? I'm not saying that they are, but, it's not the first time. So be interesting to see how they handle Monday's Raw. And I'll tell you this much. Let's see what the Raw rating is. Because if Raw pops a good number, especially on the heels of Miz winning. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that Miz equals ratings. If that was the case, we would have saw big numbers for some of his, and we've also pointed out that Miz and Morrison in so many main events on Raw had horrible numbers, but just the buzz. When you get that buzz, that leads to casual viewers that don't tune in live on Mondays, maybe tune in live just to see what's going to happen next. So let's see what happens. But, Sam's birthday is Tuesday. Happy birthday, Sam. Much love. And, so I'm going to jet out of here. For those that are looking to download the episode or, if you're looking to get a copy, I'll have it online in about a half an hour. For everyone else, much love. Thank you as always for the support. And join me Monday night. I will be here after Raw with your Raw recap, fallout from Elimination Chamber, and a couple other news tidbits that I want to get into. So thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Post in the comment section your favorite match of the night, least favorite match of the night, what you give the pay-per-view on a scale of 1 to 10. What do you think I said earlier about maybe Braun being the one to, cause Drew to lose instead of Lashley? Post your comments. I spent about 3 hours earlier responding to comments going back almost a month. So I'm always trying to be interactive over here. So trust me, your words will not fall on deaf ears. So definitely post. And I catch you all Monday night after Raw. So take care, everyone. Thank you for hanging out tonight, and I see you tomorrow night. Ciao.